Boom. And it's Paul Boggie, right? Paul Boggie.
Think like up your nose, Boggie.
I'll leave that in.
It wasn't until I tried to stop taking it and realised I can't. And then my whole life just took a massive downward spiral. The doctors told me I'm going to die from malnutrition. I used that negative energy that they were feeding me and society was feeding me. I used it and I thought, I'm going to prove these people wrong, and it made me feel nice. And I was starting to get off on the feeling that it proving them wrong.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Getting Back Up with me, Anthony Ogogo. And as I'm sure you're aware by now, in this podcast I talk to amazing people that have done great things in both their life and or career, but only after suffering massive setback and adversity. And this week is like no other. This week I'm talking to a legend, a man amongst men, a guy called Paul Boggie. Now Paul hasn't got superstardom fame. He's not like a Tony Bellew or a Bayo Akinfenwa. Paul Boggie is a very regular guy that made some bad decisions as a youngster, and he paid the price. Paul Boggie is an author. He raises money for the homeless in Scotland. His books are called From Heroin to Hero, and that's very much Paul's life. Paul, for 7 years, was addicted to heroin, and in the following hour or so, he tells me all about those dark times. Now, heads up, we talk about drug use, overuse, drug abuse in this podcast. We talk about suicide, how Paul very almost came close to ending it all. But this is called Getting Back Up. So of course we talk about Paul's significant and an unbelievable comeback where he became a Royal Scots Guard guarding Her Majesty the late Queen. And there's so much more. It's a truly empowering, unbelievable story from a man that I think the world of. You're going to enjoy this one. No, you're going to love this one. I loved it. I've listened to it 3 times now just because I get so much myself from this podcast. So, with that being said, please sit back, relax, get your pen out, make some notes, learn from this great man. Without further ado, let's get stuck in. Paul Boggie, as in up your nose, as you just now told me. Welcome to the Getting Back Up podcast, mate.
Thank you for having me on, mate. I appreciate it.
Watch out for those double thumbs, because what happens when you do a double thumb? Give me a double thumb. And for people that are listening to this and not watching, we're filming this online, and we've learned that when Paul does a double thumb, there's fireworks in the background of his screen, which is really funny. Hopefully, if you can watch this, you can see what we're laughing about. But if you downward thumbs, there's rain, there's hail, and the love heart. Right, mate. You have an incredible story, an unbelievable story, and I want to approach this with as much humility and respect as I possibly can. I've spent the last 3-4 days listening to your audiobook that I think we're going to start with. The audiobook. Your book is called From Heroin to Hero.
Yeah.
Paul, for those people that don't know who you are, just top line, just skim over your journey and why we're talking today.
So I'm born in Edinburgh, Scotland. You may well tell with the accent. I had a relatively normal life, a good upbringing, amazing strict parents. At the age of 18, I was unfortunate enough to become addicted to heroin. Then my addiction lasted for 7 years. I took many other drugs in that time, and I became depressed, eventually ending up suicidal. And after I got help and got clean, sorted my life out, 5 years after getting clean, I was standing outside Buckingham Palace, guarding the late Queen, with a red tunic, a bearskin on, and a rifle. You know, my whole life had changed. It was amazing. Then I was in a serious car accident where I broke my back, crushed my spine. I got medically discharged in 2015. I had a run-in with opiate medications that the doctors put me back on. I became addicted to drugs again, albeit from the chemist. And then during lockdown, I had a brilliant idea to write and finish my book, Heroin to Hero, and to donate all the proceeds from my book to Homelessness in Scotland. And I've raised just over £18,000 so far, just on my own, on social media. It must be the fireworks that's making all the difference with the double thumbs up. But yeah, it's just I've been self-promoting and just trying to help people less fortunate than what I am. I do my talks on addiction, how I got clean, how I sorted my mental health, how I got back up after being suicidal. And I've helped lots of people around the world. And I visit schools, I visit prisons, I do my motivational talking, in charities, football clubs, anyone that's willing to listen, and that's who I am, mate. Hopefully I skimmed over it quick enough because I can't talk for Scotland.
And I can talk for England, mate. Together, mate, we're talking for the whole of the UK. Wow. So, yeah, as I said, you mentioned your book, and I want to start at your book. And I've listened to your book, so for the last few days now. And we had a real brief chat. We had a real brief chat last week, arranging the times for this podcast. And I when you spoke, I just captivated and listen to you talk on your, because you obviously mainly do the main voice in the Audible book. Captivated, and you said just now, anybody's willing to listen, I'm willing to listen, and my listeners and watchers of this podcast, we want to listen and learn from you, because you have so many life lessons that I've already learned from your book, and you've got a great story, and I think you're a wonderful, wonderful human being that you've looked at your old version of yourself in the mirror, and you want to be more than that. You want to grow from that, and more than that, you want to help other people. And I think, mate, I'm tingling already. I get the goosebumps. I get inspired everywhere, and you certainly are an inspiration, young man. So, your book, Heroin to Hero. I said to you just now, and I said to you, I want to stop the conversation because I want to have it on air so people can hear. I mean, it was a captivating book because you tell your story, and it's you. And I mentioned, there are other voices on the book, like it's mainly narrated by you, but we've got other voices. We've got a female voice as well telling your story for you. It's like there's mistakes in the book. People make mistakes when they're reading the book. You can tell they're reading the book. You can sometimes hear the page being turned, which is not unusual when you listen to a book from Audible. But for me, mate, it grabbed me. Honestly, it grabbed me by the chest, and it pulled me in even more because it's so authentic. It's so real. It's not polished. It's not shiny. It's not brand spanking new. It's not, ta-da, look at this. It's authentic, and it's as real as it gets. And from not even knowing you, your book is just you. And I felt like I was sitting there opposite you, hearing your story come out of your mouth for the first time. And before I pass over to you to talk about that and tell me your reasoning for that, I want to say, listen to your book, mate. Do you know what? Obviously, a book about addiction and drugs. Do you know what your book made me want more than anything? A cup of tea. You often say about you start each day with a cup of tea. I've got my cup of tea here, ready to go, and you made me want to have a cup of tea. So, and in my life, whenever things getting stressful, I have a cup of tea, and all's good in the world. And living in America now, it's hard to get a good cup of tea. So I've got to go far. I've got to go to the English shop, to the British shop to get a cup of tea. So, with that being said, mate, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so I was on. Thank you, mate. I need to stop doing double thumbs up because I'll be loaded with fireworks the whole time. So I'm trying to sit with my hands on my lap the whole time. But I appreciate the kind words. How that whole thing came about was I had written the book and published it and uploaded it for paperback and ebook to Amazon. And I actually done a charity boxing event with some professional boxers, Ben Duracell Jones. I didn't know if you know him. It flopped anyway. But all these pro boxers, I spent some time with them down in North Yorkshire, and I was talking about the book. And one of the gypsy boxers turned around and said, "Paul, is it on audiobook? Because I'm dyslexic." And I said, "No, it's not, mate, but it's something that I'll look to in the future." So that planted the seed, about doing an audiobook. I got invited into HMP Perth, my very first prison I ever went to, and they said, "Come in and do a motivational speak to the inmates, talk about your life, addiction, how you turned it round." Happy to do that. So I volunteered, I went in, and I loved it. I loved it so much I went back a second time, and then a third time. And on the third time, when I was in seeing the guys, they've got like a radio booth, mate. It's like with all the headphones and the microphones, and they do a show to the whole prison, 700 inmates every day. And when I got home, I thought, I wonder how the prison would feel about all the inmates that I'm in talking to, for them to read a chapter each in my book. So I emailed the Scottish Prison Service, and I put it to them, and I said, "How it's never been done before, as far as I know. I was just thinking out loud, but how would you feel?" So they went and put it to the inmates, and they were all like, because all the profits from my book goes to homelessness in Scotland, I think that urged them on, because it gave them a sense of giving back to society. And so they all jumped on board and said, "Paul, we'd love to do it." So it was literally us, like you're saying, you hear the pages turning. It was literally us all sitting in the booth, opening up the book, and me reading a bit. And then there's a guy from London reading a bit. There's a guy from Dundee reading a bit. There's a guy from the north of England, and it was these different voices. Excuse me. It was all these different voices, some prison staff as well. And then when it came to uploading it, it was very difficult to put all the audio files together. And when we heard it back, there was lots of mistakes. And I knew about the mistakes before I uploaded it. And that it has to be on my head. I made the decision to upload it regardless of the mistakes that are in there, and not to have this polished, overworked thing, because it's not about my story isn't about being polished. My story is actually about realizing and understanding that perfect doesn't exist. So why are you trying to be perfect when it doesn't even exist? So the paperback isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. No disrespect, you're not perfect. Anybody watching this isn't perfect. So my audiobook didn't have to be perfect. It had a few flaws in there, and I uploaded it. And it does come in for some criticism from people, like you're saying, your usual audiobook listeners are not expecting the mistakes to be in there. They're not expecting to hear the pages turning. But, I love it, and it's raised a lot of money for excuse me, it's raised a lot of money for homelessness in Scotland. So I'm proud of it, and so are the guys that read, the guys and girls that read the chapters there. They're proud that they've done it as well. So,
so well, obviously raising money for homelessness is a unbelievable cause. Also, you're empowering the inmates for giving them some sense of purpose, something to be proud of. After presumably doing things that they're not so proud of. That's why they're in there, mate. Well, I mean, it's an incredible it's an incredible book, and that's why I wanted to start with it, because I recommend people to go and listen to it and learn. And I just learned a lot about addiction, about a drug addict, and it's just people. You're such a normal man, right? And people have an idea of what druggies or drug addicts are, but they're people that have maybe making the bad decision or a couple of bad decisions, and they're just still. And that was the humanizing aspect to me. very, very human and very, actually really relatable. And I've never really touched drugs. I don't really do much, 'cause obviously as a boxer and athlete my entire life, that's not really like my bag. But so it's always been a bit, never been able to really understand it. But listening to your book is really humanizing, and that's what I loved. Really relatable. So I recommend everybody go and get it on Audible. I think it's $9.99. Heroin to Hero, and that's your story, mate. That's your obviously getting back up story. We're gonna talk about some of the dark times and the big climactic ending at the end, and you're still very much on your journey. And yeah, so mate, growing up as a kid, you are one of four brothers. You said you had an amazing family. Um, and again, I'm gonna listen. I've made loads of notes here. I may refer, I may not. You said you got amazing parents and amazing brothers. Growing up, it didn't sound that amazing. Growing up, it sounded very difficult. And like maybe you say amazing now because, and I'm not here to criticize your family at all. I'm not a parent yet, so I couldn't imagine how hard it is. I haven't got a brother. I don't know how hard it is. I've got four sisters, but like your family really came through for you, later on in your life. But early on, it sounded hard. Like they said things like even your parents would joke that like, you know, you're adopted, or they found you in an alleyway or in a dustbin or whatever. Like talk about that. And like you sit and smile now, but how hard was that growing up? Because you always said you felt different to your three brothers and your parents.
Yeah, and anybody looking at pictures of me and my brothers now, we are all bogies. We are all brothers. We all look the same. But when I was a young kid, and I remember them joking and laughing, saying I was found in a dustbin, and it was just like, is that true? And I'm only a young boy, and I already feel like a little bit different, a bit of disappointment. I always felt like a bit of disappointment.
Why? Well, you said in your book that your dad was really sporty and your brother's more athletic than you. You're the second. You're the second oldest, but even quite a young age, like you weren't the fastest. You were quite short. Why did you feel like a disappointment being so young?
So we love football. We were a footballing family, and we played football all the time. And what happened was at primary school age, there was things that happened, lots of things that happened, some traumatizing, and some they're not serious, Anthony, but they traumatized me, and they had an impact on my life. You know, when we started to get older, my younger so, so like my younger brother, who's 3 years younger than me, and my older brother's 3 years older, so there's a 3 years gap between the three of us. So it's understandable that my big brother's going to be stronger and better at football than I am. And I'm going to be stronger and better at football than my younger brother. Wrong. My younger brother was better and stronger than what I was. And my brother used to punch me all the time. Sometimes for no reasons, and sometimes I asked for it. He used to full punch me. And we would fight like cat and dog, and I would punch my younger brother, expecting him to punch my youngest brother. But he didn't. He punched me back. So every time my big brother was punching me one side, I'm punching my other brother. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Punching him, and then he's punching me right back. So I was getting it for both ends. And then I was like, like school football, I would get subbed, and they would bring my little brother on, who's 3 years younger than me, to replace me as a sub on the football park, and everybody would laugh. Here's Boggie's wee brother because he's crap. And just these things that stick with you. So I always felt like a bit of
Not good enough.
not good enough. And then I had episodes as well when I was shitting myself. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was only a wee boy, but I was doing a number two in my pants. And it traumatised me because I couldn't understand why I was doing it and what was going on with my body. It was embarrassing. And there was instances in my life where family friends would come round, you know, and there'd be obviously a smell, and my mum would grab me and she'd pick me up and she'd pull my jammy bottoms down and she'd get a full tub of talcum powder and douse me in talcum powder because of the smell and things like that. When I'm a wee boy, I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with me? Why am I rubbish at football? Why am I ugly? Why am I shite at myself? Why am I pissing myself? Why am I this? Why am I that? And it sort of stuck with me through my whole life. And it's not serious trauma like some of the people that I deal with today. Everybody's trauma is different, but for me, it traumatized me as a young boy, and it sort of plagued, you know, high school. It plagued young adult life. It sort of plagued everything, and then I took heroin for the first time, and it was bliss because I didn't have these thoughts and memories or a care in the world. I took it for the first time, and I knew I shouldn't have been taking it. I never thought I'd get addicted, but I did take it. And on taking it for the first time, mate, I realised at the age of 18, so I'm still just a young man, still naive about things, thinking because I'm chasing the dragon, which is smoking heroin, I'm not injecting it. I'm not going to get in trouble. And I remember the early stages of taking that drug as it felt almost heavenly, like there was nothing in my mind. There was nothing about worrying about what people think, worrying about who I was, who I was becoming. Nothing about anything mattered. All that mattered was being in that moment, being on that drug, and not having a care in the world. And unfortunately for me, I fell in love with that feeling. I enjoyed that feeling so much that I went back the second, third time, fourth time, fifth time, kept taking it. And a continuous use of any addictive drug like that is going to result in an addiction. And very naive, that's what happened. It wasn't until I tried to stop taking it and realised I can't. And then my whole life just took a massive downward spiral, you know, where you're taking crack, magic mushrooms, cocaine, ecstasy, amphetamines, pills, this, that, and the other. You're self-sabotaging, you've given up, and depression sets in. And, you know, with depression setting in and not realising what depression is, mate, because you're still a young man. I didn't know what it was. Crying every day, hurting myself, cutting my arms with a knife, marking myself, never thinking about suicide, only thinking if I can show people that I'm hurting, maybe someone will see me and maybe someone will be able to help. So I would show my friends when I would go out, I would wear a short sleeve t-shirt and I would put a long sleeve on when my mum and dad visited. But I'd let my friends see all my marked arms where I was all cut on my arms. And they never knew how to deal with me. They never knew what to say. They never even brought it up. And I thought, they just didn't care.
You wanted help. You wanted help, and you were screaming for help, but you didn't know how to verbalize it because I'm thinking already. I'm thinking. Really, really emotional, man, and I'm emotional because I've heard this. I've heard this from your mouth the last few days, so I know your story really well. And I've written them on my notes, like some like heartbreaking with an arrow up. At a point we're gonna go back to in a minute, but yeah, you obviously had all this pain and you couldn't verbalize it. You didn't know how to because we're not really taught how to. Especially, you're a little bit older than me, but not a great deal older than me. But growing up, couldn't really talk. Obviously, in a house full of boys as well, it's not really like a talky kind of setup. It's just heartbreaking, mate. You were desperately trying to show people that you were hurting and hoping that they'd figure it out, and save you. And that's why it's so important to talk, especially when you're young and you're naive. When you say 18 is a young man, yeah, 18 you're a young man, but you're still a baby. Like, I didn't feel like I was a man until I was 23 years old. I mean, at the time I did, but looking back now, 18, 19, 20, I was a baby. I didn't know what I was doing. I was young, with this bravado. You mentioned something, mate, and because your story is so powerful and the way you tell it is so powerful, and the way you read your book is there's long pauses, and I'm like, oh, I just want to, oh mate, it's just so captivating, as I've said numerous times now. The first time I've written heartbreaking in this book, you said you began drinking at 15, didn't really like it, but you did it because your mates were doing it, and it didn't end well. All your mates take the piss out of you. You commented about your teeth a few times and the way you looked. You've said here that you were an unfortunate looking kid, and you said actually bloody ugly or fucking ugly, however you described yourself. Which, by the way, man, I know it's a long time ago. I don't think that at all, but obviously that's a reflection of how you were feeling about yourself at the time. Um, all your mates took the piss out of you about the way you looked, and you joined in taking the piss out of yourself because at least when you were doing that, you were getting attention. And that's the thing you craved as a kid. You craved attention because you didn't get it at home, you didn't get it elsewhere. And the way you, I guess, felt love or felt attention, people laughed at you. So you acted the joke all the time. You're the silly one, you're the funny one, you want to take a piss out of yourself because at least if they're laughing at you, at least you're involved. And I think that's just heartbreaking, mate. And I really feel for you. So I get it. I can't truly get it, of course, but I totally understand. And that's why I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast how you've humanized drug addicts, because I would want to. I'd want to escape. If that was my reality, I only felt like I was getting attention, taking the piss out of myself, I'd want to escape that as well. Um, wow. I mean, yeah.
It is that thing where you're, as long as people are joking and laughing and things and you're getting that attention, it's fine. But at the end of the day, when I go home, you know, to my family home and jump into bed and I'm left with my own thoughts and thinking about the day that I've had, and the only thing that's been in my day is maybe elements of bullying or me, excuse me, taking the mickey out myself, when the way that I was as a young kid, for me it was horrendous. And my mum keeps sending me pictures, and people message on social media and say, Paul, I've seen a picture of you when you were 16, and I've seen a picture of you when you were 12. You weren't an ugly kid. You weren't an ugly bairn. And I'm thinking, I look at the pictures and I think, maybe I wasn't that bad. But at the time, when all my friends have got girlfriends, right? They're all starting to go into this world of meeting girls because we're at secondary school, we're at high school, and everybody's got girlfriends. Everybody except me, and that's very traumatizing, and that's reconfirming what I already think. Because now the girls are telling me that I'm ugly. So I'm already thinking I'm ugly. My friends are telling me I'm ugly. And now I've got girls full front telling me that I'm ugly. I've got buck teeth, big plukes on my skin, and this, that, and the other, whatever it is. So I'm now starting to believe what other people are telling me is the truth. And that, as a young kid, it's difficult to understand the way that I would now. You believe it and you think it's true, and everything that you're doing in life is confirming what people are telling you. So I was like, well, I don't know. I'll just be on my own. I'll never get married. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. I'll just be this waster, And that was the unfortunate thing with the heroin, was that it offered me that escape of reality, and I did that, and I loved it. The truth is, Anthony, I still love heroin now. I'm almost 20 years since I last took heroin.
Wow.
And I know that I can never take that drug till the day I die because I love that drug so much.
Is it sad?
And
Is that a sad fact knowing that you love something but you can't do it?
no, not because of what the damage caused. That far outweighs for me now. Far outweighs what the physical feeling that heroin gives me, and the mental escape gives me for the short term.
Yeah.
The addiction that happened after taking that drug day after day, what that done, the shame, the embarrassment. I dropped below 8 stone. The doctors told me I'm going to die from malnutrition, not from heroin. He says malnutrition will kill you long before heroin does, Paul.
Yeah.
Because you're not eating. So everything physically and family related and mind related, everything that addiction caused for me back then is a good enough reason to never ever take that drug again. Ever.
So I want to go back to the taking a piss at yourself before we move on to the next section. Actually, made me feel guilty. Like, big bunch of friends as a kid, and I was like the loud, funny, cocky one. I thought, whatever, like world champion boxer, 15 years old. So I always take the piss quite a lot. And I just want to say to any of my friends out there that I took jokes too far. Like, at the time, of course, I didn't think I did, but some of my friends might have went home thinking, "Oh, that's really what I mean." I just want to apologize. And you made me look inwards and go, I felt bad for taking a piss maybe a little bit too far because at the time I thought it was funny or people were laughing. So I just want to hold my hands up and say, so I never realized people went home and had those thoughts because I didn't, you know. So why would I think other people did? I was a young man. So I just want to put that out there. Mate, so that first time, and he said they did a bit of puff as a kid. You were always the anti-drugs one of all your friends. And like, you were involved in a gang when you were a kid, 20, 30 lads kind of breaking windows, doing like silly naughty boy stuff, you know. But from my understanding, you just wanted to fit in and be one of the lads and wanted friends, and you were looking for that kind of that tribal acceptance, and you found it in a gang. You know, you didn't do anything too bad, you know, some naughty stuff, nothing really to kind of go into. I want to focus on the drugs, obviously, because that's the first major chapter of your young adult life. That first day, you're in your car, you drove somewhere to get. Talk to me through it. Talk to me about it. Like what you were thinking. Were you scared? Were you worried? Smoking it, injecting it. The differences. Like, as somebody who is not in that world, never really been in that world, talk to me about it, please.
So heroin had flooded into the area and it caught everyone off guard. We had all had the same education at school, pictures of needles, belts, spoons, and heroin kills on the poster. Say no to drugs and all that stuff. So heroin had come into the area and I was a boy racer and I had a car and I had a black Escort XR3. The best car of all my friends. I had that. And so they used to always come in for me every day. Is Paul coming out? Ring the buzzer. Is Paul coming out? Is Paul coming out? Because I had the best car. And what had happened was they stopped doing that. And we hadn't had a falling out. So I jumped in the car and I drove down to the beach. And I seen them in the car. And they ignored me. Little did I know, that was when I seen the first flash of tinfoil. They were in this crammed Ford Fiesta. And they were sitting chasing the dragon. But I didn't want to be on my own. So I was in my car on my own, and they were all in this tiny Fiesta, all crammed into it. I asked one of my friends what it was, and that's when when they said chase the dragon, I thought, what's that? Because it sounds ridiculous, chasing the dragon. And he said, heroin. And I said, shut up. There's no way all my pals that I grew up with, and no other families, mums and dads and brothers and sisters, I ken them all, there's no way they're sitting in there taking heroin. And they were. but I didn't want to be on my own. So I said to my friend, go back in the car and tell them they can come in my car and they can take the heroin in my car. I'm not touching it. So they started filtering into my car. I used to go to the heroin dealer, park up outside round the corner. He would go away, get the heroin, come back in the car, we'd go to the beach. They would sit in the back and they would chase the dragon, take the heroin and get out their faces.
And that's smoking it, right? Chasing dragon means
That's
smoking.
Yeah, so that's smoking it. And that went on for a few weeks. And then the very first time I ever tried it, so you have that peer pressure, which followed me for a young boy taking alcohol, cannabis. If you didn't do it, you're going to get bullied for not doing it, which was a thing. So I didn't want to be bullied. I wanted to fit in. With the heroin, I had an argument with my mum about car insurance, and I left the house, slammed the door, screaming and shouting at my mum, being disrespectful about money for car insurance. I jumped in the car, I drove all the way down to the beach, and I was like, fuck it. Do you know what? I was that angry and pissed off. Every day they were offering me, Anthony, have it, Paul, try it. And I was like, smells disgusting. No thanks, no thanks, no thanks. And I never ever thought I would try it. And that day, I was still so angry. I said, right, what do I do? And they showed me how to do it. And I took my first hit. And the rest is history. It was,
you said it was horrible,
that anger.
Was it disgusting, horrible? You said you didn't enjoy it. Like a dead fish, you said this smells like.
It smells like rotten fish. And actually, physically, what happened was, I think I went green. I started to shake, and I started to sweat in places that I did not know you could sweat. Right? I just never knew. I remember getting out the car, lying on the promenade, on the concrete, on my back, and I was soaking, absolutely drenched in sweat, and I felt sick, like I wanted to vomit. Kept feeling like I was wanting to vomit. And I just lay there, and it was bliss, mentally, because there wasn't any of these car insurance worries, arguing with my mum worries, being ugly worries, no having enough money worries, no having a girlfriend worries, no this shiting myself when I was wee worries, getting bullied when I was at school worries, what's happening in the future worries. None of that mattered. And although physically it was horrific, mentally it wasn't. It was nice.
You finally felt at peace. It sounds like you finally felt peace and.
Yeah, and that peace, but that peace doesn't last, mate. That was the thing.
How long would one hit last?
Hours. Early on, it's obviously stronger because you build up tolerance to all these kinds of drugs. But early on, you would take one hit, and hours later, I'm still wasted. I'm still drooling. I'm still drooling out the side of my mouth, and because I'm so relaxed that my muscles just give way on my face, and then I just start slavering, and I'm conscious. I'm lying there with my eyes closed. I can hear people talking. I can feel dribbles coming down my chin, but I didn't want to move because I'm in that sort of coma-like state where it's just bliss, and I didn't want to wake myself up. So I'm just lying there, and it just lasted, and then I'd go home, I'd jump into bed, go to sleep and things, and then the next again day and night, we're going to go and get it again. I'd go and get it the second time, the same thing would happen. I feel like I'm wanting to vomit. The sweating would start.
So, Paul, so after that, when you went home that night, you got in bed, and hopefully, what are your immediate thoughts in that? Do you feel like, oh, I like that. That was nice. Or do you feel like, oh, I've tried it once, I don't want to do it again? Did you know you're done? Did you feel bad? Did you feel guilty? Just what's the mindset? Because there's like you said earlier, you mentioned earlier, you go home, you get in your bed, and then you're left just you and your thoughts, and it's quiet or it's noisy, whatever. What are the voices saying in your head?
I liked it.
Liked it.
And there was no remorse, and there was no guilt. I knew it was heroin. There was nothing there like that. I had no guilt or ill feel, like anything negative, like about what my family, what my mum and dad would think, what my brothers and people that love me would think. Nothing. It was very a very selfish mindset. I'm lying there and I'm realising I've just taken heroin and I loved it, but it's okay because I'll never get addicted.
Yeah. Why? Why do you
That was,
think you wouldn't get addicted? Why do you? Because obviously, you know the posters, heroin kills, don't do drugs, people will get addicted. Why did you think they can get addicted, but I'm not going to get addicted? Why did you think it was different?
I just thought that my friends they wouldn't be chasing the dragon. Even back then, I didn't know what that was. It's just smoking. It's just smoke. You can't get addicted to heroin like that. I'm going to be able to stop whenever I want, and so will all my friends. We can all stop when we want because it's not very serious. Because there isn't, I'll never inject heroin, and I was at that for day one. Never ever do that. And if my friends
What's the
start
difference?
injecting,
What's the difference? Why would you never inject but smoke it?
because heroin kills if you inject. Because that's what the poster tells you with the picture of the needle and the spoon and the belt. And if you've seen films like Trainspotting and you see educational videos with revolving heroin, and society today, mate, often makes the assumption heroin. Oh, he must be sticking needles into his groin. Then that's what society has. That's the way
That's what I
that the
think.
world
Yeah,
is.
that's my perspective. You know, you
Yeah,
get underneath the
and
toenail and stuff. You know on your dick, like you look through a vein. That's my thoughts of heroin. But
yeah, and that was
that's not the full truth.
it's not the full truth, and that was why we were all extremely naive. We used to joke about it in the car on the way to get heroin. We were joking and laughing. Paul, you'll get addicted, and I was like, "Shut up, idiot! You'll get addicted," and it would be a joking thing, you know. And then the crazy thing is, they're no longer here. They died as a direct result of their drug addiction,
Oh,
you know. And it's that now, I'm 44. I'm 44 years old, and when I think back in memories, and I talk about, which I do a lot in podcasts and or interviews and things, and I talk about a life past, talk about the beach, the crammed Fiesta. Most of that car isn't alive today, and how the addiction had taken hold of these decent, big hearted, doing it for you guys that I grew up with. And it's hard because I'm not saying that all drug addicts are saints. All I'm saying is not all addicts are bad people, and certainly through my experience, not all heroin addicts are bad people. We're all different and we're all individual.
and
And some of these,
and they're people, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. They're people. They're still people with parents, brothers, sisters, children, feelings, and emotions, and they're people. Mm.
yeah, and this is what society has a hard time understanding, I think, and this is why I do interviews and stuff. And what you were talking about right at the start about humanizing, like for me, my story, and I'm just a normal guy, that was fortunate enough, to turn it around and become a soldier and all that sort of good stuff. But there's millions of people out there right now that are stuck in a place because they didn't think that they would get addicted, or they thought they would be able to stop and the harsh reality is the drugs are amazing. And there's a reason why we have so many addicts all over the globe, whether it's heroin, cocaine, crack, meth, whatever it is. There is a reason why there's millions and millions of people drawn to taking those drugs, because they are mind-altering drugs. Cannabis is a mind-altering drug. Alcohol, mind-altering drug. Alcohol is the most destructive drug in the world, and it's legal. Crazy, but it's that whole heroin is, people have that assumption, but it is about, for me, it is about treat everybody as an individual, and then make the assumptions on people that everybody else does. Get to know somebody's backstory. There's things that I hear, Anthony, on a daily basis from people that I help. Obviously, I can't tell you the stories. Even backstage, I couldn't tell you because it's private and confidential. Some of these people, and we talked about my trauma, which isn't very serious. It was to me at the time, but as far as childhood trauma goes, and trauma in general goes, I hear some horrific stories from people, and I always say to people, no wonder that person is a heroin addict, because I understand why they would want to hide away from reality. If my reality was as horrific and they'd been through such a horrific time as what these people have, then I can understand why heroin would be their best friend like it was mine. I understand it. And obviously I still try and help them to break the addiction, to break away. But it's extremely difficult to convince people.
I hate people. Something I really hate. People say, like, obviously you see a lot of homelessness on the streets. There's a lot here in the US. Obviously, there's a lot in London where I am when I'm back in England, and a lot of homelessness. And people, a couple of times actually, people will say, I have to give homeless people money because I just think poor buggers. I just think it's, whether it helps or not, I don't know. But I struggle to see a homeless person step over them because ultimately they're still people. And if that is me, and it doesn't take a lot, like, I had a very good upbringing. Don't get me, it was difficult in parts, but I had a loving mum and 4 amazing sisters, and that got me through the tough times of my upbringing. And then somebody said to me twice, actually, different people, don't give them money; they'll just go and buy drugs. And I thought, yeah, and so would I probably. So would I. Like if I was lying on the street in London in February and it's cold, wet, miserable, and people looked over me and stepped over me like I didn't exist, I'd wanna I'd wanna take my mind away. I'd wanna like be high all the time and just that bliss, as you mentioned earlier. Because no, who's helping, And you should never judge people because, like you said, you have no idea the shit that people go through, and some of the traumas you had a relatively comparatively good upbringing with two parents that obviously loved you, were strict and stuff, said some things, but still obviously loved you. And also homelessness, right? But like, if I was a 14-year-old girl getting molested by my stepdad, I'm running away, right? And that's why a lot of people end up homeless, not because they're lazy or don't want to get a job or whatever some people think, or they're druggies or this. Like, people should not judge so quickly, because what would they do in a similar situation? And it doesn't take a lot, does it? As you'll know the stats way better than me. It doesn't take a lot of something like everyone's maybe 6 months from being homeless or something, like, you'll know better than me, but like, it's not too far for anybody. And yeah, people should be a bit kinder. So if you take one thing away from this podcast, I'm sure you'll take more, because this is a tiny bit. Now, some of you pass a homeless person, whether you give them money or don't, or give them food or don't, at least respect them as people. You have no idea what led them to be there. So I just wanted to say that. And secondly, mate, you mentioned about that car, like your Escort, and like most of the cars not there anymore. They've died because of the addiction. Like, can you explain to me? And this might be difficult to talk about. I don't know how they died, why they died. Like, what was it that killed them? Was it the pursuit of money for drugs? Was it the actual drug itself? Was it just the lifestyle that happens when you become addicted to drugs?
lifestyle. It is one of those unfortunate things where being an addict and chasing that hit all the time and abusing drugs all the time, you're running a gauntlet every single day. And it's a gauntlet that you're more than happy to run because you are wanting that hit. You want to feel that bliss, that escape from reality. And, like overdosing and, and just physical physical problems is a direct result of a continuous use and abuse of drugs, not always just heroin, tablets, other medications. When you take cocktails of prescription drugs, you are running the risk of overdose and you don't even know it. And sometimes, mate, to be truthful, you didn't care. And I've been in many instances myself when I've swallowed maybe 20 or 30 tablets, and 15 minutes later, when I can feel the tablets kicking in, I've got a fright. And I thought, have I taken too many? Because I feel dizzy and I feel like things are going to black out, and I've not felt this sensation before, and I'm shaking. And what's wrong? Have I taken too many? And I'll pass out and I'll wake up, and then you just go on about. The following day is the same. You're just chasing those hits. And
that's a terrifying. Sounds terrifying. Like when you're shaking before you pass out. And obviously, when people OD, they pass out and they never wake up. Were you scared that would happen to you, or when you had that fright, as you said, before you did pass out? Were you ever scared that next time you might not wake up from passing out?
didn't care. I didn't care, mate. If I overdosed and died, then so be it. And as horrible as that sounds, I was so selfish. I had become so selfish and self-absorbed in my own life, my own struggles, that I wouldn't give my family a second thought at that time. Heroin's going to kill me eventually, tomorrow or in 2 weeks, maybe next month, maybe next year, but it's going to get me, and I'm going to die because. And so I'd given up on life. So I just abused any drug that I could get my hand on. Any. It would not matter what it was. I would just swallow tablets like they were going out of fashion. But when I had that time in my life where I decided that I'm going to stop cutting my arms as I cry for help, I'm actually going to commit suicide. I remember the feeling. Oh, sorry about the fireworks.
Fucking hell! For those people that can't, down with the thumbs. Now let's add some humor now. For those people that can't, that listen to this, not watching it, Paul just, he's talking he decided to kill himself, rubbing his hands together and done double thumbs up. And as you mentioned at the beginning, double thumbs up, it becomes Guy Fawkes night in the Paul household. And his background was fireworks, which was, mate, I've got a big lump in my throat. It's probably better than, I'm glad that happened because I was going to get a bit choked up. But sorry, mate, continue, please.
So it's like, I had played around with the idea, never contemplating or thinking about I would actually do it. I'd had family members that had committed suicide, and it had destroyed my family. I'd seen it firsthand, and I didn't want to do that to my mum and dad, right? So when I was marking myself, that seemed okay. I didn't feel too bad about it. I remember the feeling that I got. It's not a game anymore. It's not a cry for help. I'm tired of this life. I'm tired of the evil things that I've seen human beings doing to other human beings. I'm tired of feeling like this junky, spat on, talked about, ugly piece of shit. I'm tired of promising my mum and dad that I'll stop taking heroin and never being able to do it. I'm tired of being a disappointment to everybody in my whole life. I'm just tired. And do you know what? This, if I jump off a bridge, I'd probably survive. If I put a belt round my neck, the bulb would the lead would come out the ceiling and I'd survive. Tablets. Copious amounts of paracetamol. 20, 30, 40. Some cocodamols. Some tramadols. Just get a big bowl and just swallow the whole lot. You'll no wake up. And guess what? You'll not be in any pain. There'll be nothing. I'm an atheist. I'm not a religious man. So I didn't know about afterlife, and like I was taught through childhood, and I understand all that. For me, I think when the lights go out, it just goes black and there's nothing. If there's a heaven and there's a hell, then I'm going to be going to hell. Rest assured with that. So in my mind, I'm thinking it's just going to go black, but you're not going to be in any pain. So it's a great idea. Let's do it. So I started putting it into started to put in how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it, and then I'm sitting listening to REM on the hi-fi, and it's a crazy thing. Automatic for the People, one of the best albums ever written by one of the best rock bands ever, and at least I listen to Out of Time and Automatic for the People every day. And Everybody Hurts was one of those songs growing up. It sounds like a sad song. Always made me emotional to listen to it, even as a wee boy. Put the album in. I'm sitting on my own in my flat. Tonight's the night. Feel it. Right, it's now. So I'm sitting. I start popping the pills from the blister packs into the bowl. And I'm sitting popping all these tablets. And I'm starting to fill this bowl up. And I get a pint of water. And I start crying. And I can remember the tears just running down, and I'm thinking about my family. And it's no stopping me. I'm thinking about all my family that love me and how much I'm going to miss them. And it isn't stopping me. I'm still popping them, and I'm getting myself more and more worked up. And then the beginning of Everybody Hurts on the hi-fi starts. And that's it. Goodbye. I've decided that song, perfect. Drug overdose, perfect. Sitting there, and then sitting listening to Everybody Hurts, and this is the craziest thing. This is the truth, mate. People think this is maybe bullshit. Michael Stipe, the lyrics of that song, hold on. I think it's verse 3 in the song. I'm not going to sing because I can't sing. Hold on. But I had the speaker next to my ear, and I heard Michael Stipe's voice. Michael Stipe knew that I was about to commit suicide. And he was singing that song specifically to me, telling me not to throw my hand. He says, don't throw your hand. Hold on. He was singing it to me. He knew what I was about to do, and I heard him. And I've sent Michael Stipe the book, and I've sent REM the book over in America, and he's received it. He said I've got a cool story because he's seen a Sun newspaper clip. He says, oh, cool story. But I've never got to contact him about how much an impact that he had in that moment in my life. And I woke up, and this is the crazy thing, I had a blue bowl. I woke up that next day morning, and the tablets were scattered all over the rug and all over the floor. And I woke up on the rug, and I lifted my head up. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck was that? Get help. You're getting help now, and you're going to take the help and stop just doing that so your mum and dad are happy. I'll see a drug counsellor. Bullshit. Get help. Because last night, what you nearly done and what you were close to doing last night is not on. And that's didn't be a selfish prick and do that. Get help. So for that moment, that was me. I picked myself up. I was under 8 stone, black circle, skeleton, struggling with depression and suicide thought and all that. And I went and got a helpmate, and I was able to save myself. Other people were able to play a part in saving me, teaching me about the mind, teaching me about who Paul Boggie is, why Paul Boggie loved drugs, why Paul Boggie felt inadequate, why Paul, and learnt about myself and being able to work through the hang-ups and the trauma and work through everything. And ultimately, the course that I done through Ceremonial, which is a homeless charity in Edinburgh, an amazing guy from across the pond in your way, Lou Tice, sadly is no longer with us, Pacific Institute, they've done a course about the power of the mind. What? Shut up. I'm not going on that. I'm a smackhead. Why am I going to go on about learning about the power of the mind? I'm not going. Right? That was the mentality for a while, and I thought, well, there's nothing to lose. Let's just try it. Or you're going to end up dead. So it was my self-talking in my own mind. So I went, sitting listening to this American psychologist telling me about how the subconscious mind works, the conscious, the creative subconscious, the self-talk, the way that I talk to myself, where if I am calling myself in the mirror every single day ugly, every single day I'm beating myself up for things, bad choices that I've done, every single day I'm putting myself down, is it any wonder that I turn to drugs and feel the way that I do? You have to change that. And he said, I have the power to be able to change my way of thinking. That's what it was. So it was nothing to do with addiction, mate. Addiction wasn't even mentioned in the whole course for the whole month. It wasn't mentioned once. It was all just about the power of the mind, the way the mind works. And once I was taught, I was able to apply the things that I was taught to my addiction problems and my mental health problems and my suicide problems, and start to make sense of it and start to fix myself and build myself up, And like almost 20 years ago, I went in the mirror, a skinny little rat I am, man, skin and bone. I went into the mirror and I remember thinking, thank you, Lou Tice. I put my nose in the mirror, said, don't fucking ask for heroin ever again, because you're never getting it. And I looked straight in my eyes in the mirror, and swore and got angry. I said, don't fucking ask. And when I done it, I got the biggest fucking goosebumps on my whole body, and I knew, as crazy as that sounded back then, or 18 years ago, or 17 years ago, and people would doubt me, say, relapses is just round the corner, you'll end up taking the drugs again. I knew I'll never touch that drug again. And 19 and a half years, I believe I deserve the right to say that I'll not touch that drug again. Even though people say, you can't say that, you didn't know what will happen tomorrow, Paul. I understand that. For me, I've been through the ringer, breaking my back and crushing my spine, been, medically discharged for the army and all that pish. If I was ever going to relapse and go back to that drug, I would have done it when I was struggling mentally through that. I know I'm never doing it. And like we spoke about earlier, my family, people that love me, people that I love, is a good enough reason. It's the only reason that I need, as well as the love that I've got for myself and the pride that I've got in what I've done and who I've become. All these things mount up into a big ball of pride, something that I never thought I'd have in my life, ever. And I've now got this big ball of pride, and nobody can break this ball of pride. It's mine. I've earned it. So I do openly talk about my drug use and say things like that may offend people. But, and I always say when I try to educate people about, again, how Paul, how did you get off? How did you stop? How did you stay off? And I always say to people, listen, you can do your rehab programs, You can do your 12 steps programs. You can turn to God. If it works for you, do it. Do whatever it takes. For me, I've done none of those things. I learnt about the mind. Thanks to Lou Tice, I learnt about the mind. I learnt about who I was, and I applied it to all the other crap in my life, and it worked. So I am that special a man, right? That it can only happen for me. So there's all these other heroin addicts out there that are struggling like what I was. Good people that are just stuck. That I want to try and help these people and reach out to these people and say, look, if 12 steps isn't working for you, or rehab centres isn't working for you, and you keep relapsing, or turning to religion isn't working for you, keep looking and try something else. Try alternatives. Try it the way I done, because you've nothing to lose and everything to gain.
How long, with that being said, with that moment of clarity for you in the mirror, how long does it take to kick a habit? Is it in a moment, like when you stood in the mirror, or is it the following weeks and months and years of recovery? Or when do you kick that habit? When are you cured, quote unquote?
For me, personally, and you're asking me a direct question about my life,
That, yeah.
it was there and then. Now, there will be people in this world that run recovery centres, that have other addictions, that will say, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I am going to die a recovering heroin addict. I'll be a recovering heroin addict for my whole life. I know that now, and I've embraced it. I knew at that split moment in my life that I would break away. Physically, I had a lot of work to do. I had cold turkey to go through. I had to start eating. I had to start exercising. I had to start looking after myself to save myself from what the doctors were warning me about, which is the damage that the malnourishment was doing. So I had to fix myself, and cold turkey is hell on
I was
earth.
going to say, can you talk about that, mate? For those who've never had to go cold turkey, what is that like? You said in your book,
So,
Hell on Earth. So, talk to me about the hell, the depths of hell.
so it's like so many times I've relapsed prior to the course. Before I went on this course about the mind, I'd relapse. I'd maybe get 2 days into cold turkey and I'd fail and I'd go back and get heroin. And it happened time and time again. And I really struggled in those moments mentally, as well as physically, but more mentally. So physically, you have like severe stomach cramps, severe migraines, shivering. Everything runs. The eyes run, the nose runs, the mouth runs. Everything just screams. Everything just shuts down because you're depriving your body from the medicine, and your body needs the medicine now to function. So you're depriving it, and you're just sweating, and it's a very horrific place to be. And at the times, it's easy just to give me the medicine. I can't cope even a day, 2 days, a few days, a week, and it's horrible. And I would never wish it on my worst enemy. It's just a horrible, horrible place to be. And there's a reason why so many people do not achieve to even get into recovery, because that's how bad it is. To put it into words is impossible, mate. And it is physically and mentally. But what happened was, on the final time, 19 and a half years ago, having been through those episodes of cold turkey, when I looked in the mirror and said, don't ask for heroin ever again, and I knew I'm never going to touch that drug again, I couldn't tell anyone, because I told my family a dozen times before. Nobody was going to believe me. When I sat cold turkey in for that week, the cramps, the shivers, the restlessness, the sweating, everything just, my body shutting down, I would just sit and rock. I'm going to get a car. I'm going to get a girlfriend. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to start playing football again. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. All I need to do is just get this physical withdrawal out the way. And as soon as I'm able enough physically to get myself out there and get better, and I'm going to start doing things. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to save myself. I'm going to, and through that whole, on the final time, it was still horrible. Physically, mate, it was still horrible. But mentally, because my mind was so strong, and I realised what I had to do, once I took away the option of ever taking heroin again, ever, it became easier. It became something that I knew I was going to see through. And as the weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, and I get into recovery, and I did get a job, and I did get a car back, and I did do all these things. I got a flat, and I'd done all these things, and I started, all these dreams that I'd had on the couch going cold turkey, I had all these dreams, and I started putting them into fruition, and they started coming true. And then I thought, what other things do you want to do with your life, Paul? What mad things can you do to prove to the world that you've changed? Let's become a soldier, you dafty. Aye, go and be a soldier. And I was like, who says I can't? Who says I can't be a soldier? Everybody. Everybody laughed. Ha ha ha. Paul Boggie, junkie, smackhead, the guy from Edinburgh, aye, going to be a soldier. He's 30 years old nearly. He's going to be a soldier. But what I'd learnt about in this course was about turning negatives into positives. So the more I heard people talking about me and people laughing in my face about being a soldier, some of them family, all my family laughed, parents included. I'm going to be a soldier. Aye, good one. I used that negative energy that they were feeding me and society was feeding me. I used it and I thought, I'm going to prove these people wrong, and it made me feel nice. And I was starting to get off on the feeling that it proving them wrong. Like, I've changed. Like, I'm not the same Paul Boggie that was down and out that you know. I've changed and I'm going to prove it. So I applied to that to become a soldier, and I told them about the heroin, and I told them when I was honest all the way through, and because of my training, there was a void that heroin filled in my life. I had to replace the void, so I found running. Running was the thing, and then mountain biking, physical fitness, lifting weights, boxing. I found boxing, and then I didn't like being punched. I found that out the hard way, right? So I'm never on your level anyway. But what I found was, when I was in the gym and doing my treadmill and lifting weights, and I went to the sports shop and bought wraps and mitts. They were only £5 or £6. Can afford it. I bought them, put them in my gym bag, waited until the gym was quiet, and went in and just put a CD on. It was Faithless, the band Faithless. We come one, and I blasted it up. It was like a dance studio, and it was and I was like, and the Rocky soundtracks as well, Eye of the Tiger and stuff, and I would hear it, the big subwoofer turned it up. I knew the boy that was running the gym. He was like, "Crack on, Paul, it's fine." I didn't know what I was doing. And I just start hitting this heavy bag, and I just pounding it and pounding it and pounding it, and it's finished. And I was like, "That actually feels amazing." I didn't feel angry.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like I've released this anger, and in society, I just become a better person, a nicer person, and every day go back and just get pounding the bag, and as you know, the training, the running and the weights and everything, you do it every day. I become addicted to physical fitness. Before I knew it, I think I'm built like a brick shit house, and I'm like in the gym in the mirror going, what the fuck? Look at this fucking size of my arms. Like, I've got lines coming down here, lines there, and lines there, and I'm like, yeah. And I've become a little bit vain, right? And this is all new to me, right? But I'm becoming this vain. Girls are starting to pay attention.
That's called finally, for the first time in your life, having self-respect. Having self-respect. That's what it is.
And it was like, because of that, when it came to joining the army so late on, mate, these 17, 18-year-old whippersnappers, right, that I was scared of, oh, they'll run rings round me. I fucking run rings round all of them. And some of the staff, when I got to basic training. Like, you're going out and you're doing your runs, doing your pull-ups, doing your push-ups and all that, and I was just smashing them out. Like, doing 100 in one go, 2 minutes, best effort, go! And I would just be there pushing them up. What's everybody got? 34, 56, 72 staff, 84 staff, Boggie, 102 staff. And everybody's like, shut the fuck up. Boggie, looking up, that old bastard is 30. He's 30. And we go out for the run. We go out for the runs and the weighted tabs and stuff. And it was like, it had become, because of that addictive personality that I've got, that I just loved it. And I loved the challenge, going up against other soldiers and beating them. And it made me feel good, and it made me have that feeling of self-worth, like I've been lacking my whole life. And that's what it gave me. And it gave me that pride, and that's made me into the man I am today. The army had a big part in moulding me into the person that I am. But it is pretty manic. It's been a manic life, but it's like, I'm not finished.
Mate, no, you've got so much life left to live. You've got so much life left to live. Now, great, listen, obviously what you went through is difficult, and we're going to jump into, there's more time. I'm not cutting this now. There's more time. I want to hear about some of the more amazing moments in your life. Because we focus on some of the hard times, and we always finish only up because hope, 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 hold on, pain ends. Hold on, pain ends, both physical and mental. Hold on. Like you said, those words, RAM, they're speaking to you in your ear, just for you. You felt like they're talking just for you. Hold on, pain ends. Just stick in, stay in the fight. Have your hands up and stay in the fight, mate. This is such powerful stuff. I love it. It's hearing like of your face. Obviously, you can't see you right now. I can see you, and your face. You've had the whole myriad of emotions in your face today. And when you were talking just now, you're doing the arms, you're doing the boxing. You look so happy, and you just look such like one of the good things about what you went through. It was so early in your life. You recovered, and you've already lived almost 20 years like of heroin, mate. Wow, massive congratulations. And there's the fireworks. There they are. There's a firework. Get in there, son. And you've still got so much more life left to live. Like so many more people to be helped. And I don't know how I can, mate, but I'm going to help you every step of the way. And you've got a massive supporter in me, for sure. Something I want to talk, and I mentioned, like, I think you do this. I'm pretty sure you do. You wear, like, the question is this. Do you ever feel shame you mentioned that you went into the army and you told them about your addiction to heroin and the depths that you sunk to, and maybe, I don't know, I can't see your arms. Have you got scars on your arms? So I mean this literally and metaphorically. Do you ever feel shame in you don't seem like you feel shame wearing your scars, both talking about what you've been through and maybe the physical scars you share. Do you feel any shame about where you've been in your life, or do you own it? Have you owned it now? You feel like you're very proud of it, actually?
No, shame every day.
Oh, you do feel shame
every single day, and I'll die with that, and it is because of what I've done to my mum and dad for those 7 years. That and my brothers as well, but more my mum and dad. And I can't turn back the clock and undo what I put them through. And my mum and dad were proud of me massively when I got off heroin and I got a job and I got a car. And then they were massively proud of me when I joined the army, and they came down to visit me in the barracks.
There's that smile again. There's that smile again. Right? I keep seeing that smile.
They were hugely proud. and they're even more proud of me now because of what I'm doing. And they allow me to carry that shame well, because they are so proud. I can't ever get rid of that shame, nor do I want to. It's who I am. It's part of bad choices that I made, but I've learnt to own it. And if I can do good with the shame that I feel in my heart for bad choices that I've made, and I can help other people in life, in this planet that we're living on, and I can do something to help one person through that shame that I carry, then that's what I'm trying to do. But the shame's there every day. That is who I am, and I'm never going to change it. So I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to change it, because that's a waste of time. That's time. Time's precious. I would be better putting that time to good use, accepting that I've got the shame and the embarrassment and all the negative things that I put my family through, and do something good and positive, turn that negative into a positive again. And that's what I just try and do. But the shame will never, go ever, and that's just life.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a counselor. Um, I don't think you should feel shame. Don't get me wrong. Feel ashamed for what? Okay, this is obviously personal to you. I don't know. I don't think you should be ashamed of your past. We all have one. I've done things that I regret. I've done things that at the time I wish I didn't do, but I did it. Um, I can't carry that around with me the rest of my life because that'll make me a bad person, a sad person. I think we all we get one go at this. We got to live at the best, live our lives the best way we can. We deserve to be happy. We deserve to smile and have fun more than feeling sad. And I don't think you should feel shame. I think you should be. If I were you, I'd feel the past is gone. You can't do anything about it. But I feel nothing but immense pride for where you are now compared to where you could have been. You could have easily been one of those guys in the car that aren't here anymore. You didn't, and that takes pride, mate. That takes strength of character to kind of like to fight out of that desperation that you were in, mate. Like, don't get me wrong. As I said, these are your feelings, these are your experiences. No one can tell you how to feel. But personally, I think you should feel the pride that you should feel way outweighs the shame that you obviously do still feel. So yeah, you are an incredible human, mate. You really are. I would have liked to have spoke more about your army, although I do want to touch. There's two points I wanna talk about, and then anything else that you want to talk about. But I've had an amazing conversation today. Point one is again going from the depth that you sunk to being a guard, a royal guard at a Windsor castle. Talk to me about that. You said your parents are proud of you for joining the army and just getting through the basic training and go doing the things that you did, and to stand outside Her Majesty's castle guarding her. Like, tell me about that, mate. Because for me, people who know me, I never got the chance to go in the army. I wanted to go in the army. Boxing always took precedent. I never could do it. I genuinely thought at 30 years old when I retired from boxing, I might do a Paul Boggie and go in the army at 30. In the end, I was too accustomed to to not getting shouted at anymore after years being shouted at by my boxing coaches. But talk to me about that, mate. Like, talk about guarding the Queen, her residence. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was a strange thing. You go into basic training to be a guardsman, and you're not only doing the green life, filling yourself, up with weapon drills, exercises, sleep deprivation, and all that stuff. The red life of being a guardsman is donning this uniform, toy soldier uniform that you seen growing up, bearskin, and then to be sent down to London. I was down in London for 9 months. Um, Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Tower of London, and St James's Palace. It's a very strange feeling, especially probably for most people, but for somebody like me that had lived the life that they'd lived, to 5 years after, it's only 5 years, it's like it didn't even feel that long ago that I was that down and out person. Then 5 years later to be standing outside Buckingham Palace, presenting arms to the Queen as she leaves, and it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? Like, am I dreaming? Because I didn't think this shit's real. I'm pinching myself and thinking, like, through basic training, it was a 1 day at a time. Just 1 day. Just put your best effort in. And tomorrow, put your best effort in. Didn't think about what's going to
I'm
happen.
glad you said that, Paul, because I talk about this a lot on the podcast. So I have different sayings for this. I had a person on recently, and she said about how do you eat an elephant one bit at a time. I often talk about the staircase. You haven't got to see the top of the staircase. You just have to see that first step, the next step, and like you said, 1 day at a time. That's how you become successful, I guess, in recovery. I guess in boxing and anything is one step at a time. When you look too far forwards, you get anxious, you get panicky, you start to worry. But we can all see one step. We can all see the step ahead of us. Sorry, management, you carry on. I just wanted to insert my little thing there.
No, good. We should give that a double thumbs up.
Yeah,
What
more fireworks.
Come on.
It's Burns night. It's Burns night here on the Getting Back Up podcast.
You're exactly right, and I think that as human beings, that's what we do. We often burden ourselves with looking at the bigger picture, and it gives us the fear and the anxiety, which is enough to stop us even trying. So through the army, I have struggled, no physically, but I struggled learning how to shoot a rifle, strip a rifle, clean a rifle. I struggled how to march. All these new things that other people seem to find easy. I've struggled. I still kick their ass on anything physical, but I struggled to do those things. So it was just 1 day after another, and just learning. And then when it got to the end of basic training, all the family come down from Edinburgh to visit me and march the parade at the end. It was strange because the Sergeant Major comes out and he addresses all the family about your sons have endured one of the most difficult courses, blah, 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 and gives it all the big spiel about being a guardsman. I think he's fucking talking about me. I'm sitting there with all my other guardsman pals. Well, that was when we went from trainee guardsman to fully fledged guardsman. So we got to drop the trainee bit. He's fucking talking about me. Like, okay, and it's like, now your sons are going to be sent down to London to do ceremonial duties. A great honour and a privilege. Fucking talking about me. I'm getting, 7 days. I'm going to be in London. I've never been in London in my life. I've never been outside fucking Edinburgh. And now I'm going down to London, And it's just like, and then just being down there and having the respect for the police officers. It was strange for me. I had all these police officers down there, even if I wasn't in uniform. It's like they knew I was a guardsman because of the way I carried myself. Hello, sir. That policeman just called me sir. How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you good? Blah, blah, blah. I'm good, mate. Aye, how are you? Aye, good. And sitting chinwag with them and that. Back in Edinburgh, I'm running away from them bad boys. I'm running, jumping fences to get away. And then down London, my whole life had just become as an element of respect. And then, I loved the ceremonial duties. It was just I'll say this quickly because we're getting on for time, right? I'd done the ceremony of the keys at the Tower of London. What a great honour. I think it's a 7-year-old tradition, and it's where if you didn't know what it is, anybody watching, go and look on YouTube. So you have the guardsmen, right, with the lantern, and they're walking through the Tower of London, and they do this every night. They walk through the Tower of London, and then there's a guardsman there. Halt! Who goes there? The keys. Whose keys? Queen Elizabeth's keys. Past Queen Elizabeth's keys. All is well. And I stand there and I bellow at the top of my voice, and all the tourists and all that are there. And I got the honour of being that person. Halt! who goes there? Because of my Scottish accent, they wanted me to do it. I was like, let's do it. So I've like, that was the highlight of my time down in London, being a guardsman. Loads of things like.
And mate, just 5 years and being, in your own words, down and out, looking, literally popping the tablets out of the package to take your own life that night. 5 years later, to being a Queen's Guard. That's unbelievably inspiring, mate. And as I said, nothing but pride, no shame, nothing but pride you should feel, because that's unbelievable. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and we haven't spoken about your significant other yet, which is a shame. I wanted to, but we've both been there. It hasn't really kind of. But behind every great man, and I think you are one, there's an even better woman. And maybe we do this again. Maybe one day down the road we jump on again, because there's more we can talk about here. I'm gonna paint you a picture. Okay, there you are, Caesar's Palace, in a bathtub, cigar in your mouth. You've just married your brand new wife. That moment there. Quickly tell me about that moment right there.
So that it was another one of those moments where, very similar to being a guardsman. Is it a dream? Is it a dream? Pinching myself like I was a guardsman, pinching myself in Caesar's Palace. Like, I've just married the most amazing woman that I've ever met in my life. Somebody that I didn't have to hide from. Somebody that loves me for me, just be me and all my flaws. And I've got lots of flaws, lots of them. And I always hid them. And if people ever came across my flaws, they made me feel bad for being myself. And with Steph, she just loves me for who I am, warts and all. And it's like that again, it's cliche, and it's like I didn't even want to say it, right? But you know when people say, like, you meet your soulmate, you meet someone, like, and that's what it's like, because we spend so much time together, we do everything together, and it's still amazing, and it's still our happy place, just the two of us, and my stepdaughter and the daft dog, Caesar, who's named after Caesar's Palace, Rottweiler. He's called Caesar. They're in the family home as well. But me and Steph just watching films and watching the telly and having the jokes.
I ask when I start every podcast, always the first question I ask, and the most important question I ask on the podcast is, how the bloody hell are you? So, Paul, how the bloody hell are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Good. I'm very good. It has to be a double thumbs up.
Let's get the fireworks are back. Right, young man. So where can the people find you, follow you, and watch you?
So I'm on all social media platforms. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube channel. I've got them all. If people are watching, I would appreciate the most coming onto Facebook. I've got an author page. That's where I do all my talks on addiction, about how I broke away from heroin, the power of the mind, self-talk. I talk about all those things all the time. So if anybody out there is looking for help with addiction, there are thousands of hours, I'm sure you can imagine, on social media, Amy, talking about how people help themselves. Obviously, if anybody is wanting either of the books, my first book is Heroin to Hero. That's on Amazon. And my new book, which we'll talk about on the next episode, or the special, that I've wrote my new book, Final Mission. Both of them are on Amazon, and and hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully you enjoy the story.
Yeah, I'm sure. I loved it, so I'm sure people were going to love this. And thank you so much, mate, for your honesty, for being how candid you are, and it's been a really riveting conversation. And it's Paul Boggie, it's PaulBoggie.
It's Boggie, but it is pronounced Bogey, as in up your nose.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Young man, thank you so much. Until the next time, you're an absolute legend. Thank you, Paul. I told you he was an emotional one. As you heard, I almost cried a couple of times in that podcast. I had a big lump in my throat. And I want to thank Paul and his bravery and his courage for sharing those really personal details. Since that conversation 10 days ago, Paul and I, we've become friends. He's a guy that I'm truly inspired by, and I want to surround myself in my life with positive people. And that's one of the great things I've done, I've learned from this podcast. Wasn't expecting it. I've got friends now that I didn't have before. And people that I want to be around. People like Martin Perry, who was born with one working limb. Like, his passion and his positivity has rubbed off on me from our conversation, and now we're mates. And Paul Boggie, what a guy! Like, just so powerful. What a lovely man. And I've actually invited Paul to be part of my fitness app, part of Go Fitness, in my mental fitness section, because his message about changing any negative into a positive is what getting back up is all about. Like, I want to be involved with that guy. I want to be around that guy. I want to learn from that guy. I'm so proud of what he did, and he is inspiration for anybody. No matter how tough times get, you can always get back up. So Paul, thank you once again, mate, for coming on and sharing that beautiful story of yours. Next week, there is no Getting Back Up podcast. We're coming to the end of 2023 now, and it's Christmas. So for the next 2 weeks, there's going to be no podcast, but I urge you, if you're listening to this podcast right now, go back and listen to some of the amazing conversations I've had with my guests, because this isn't just a podcast. This is a deep dive conversation where I talk to people and they open up their heart and they reveal their deepest, darkest secrets, things they've never told anybody. I've spoken to people on this podcast, people like Scott Oakley. He confessed things to me he hasn't even told his family members. His closest friends had no idea. Like, people open up their hearts for our betterment so we can learn from them. So I urge you all to go back and listen to the previous episodes of these podcasts. Every single guest, be if they're famous or not, they've got lessons to teach you to help improve your life and to inspire you to get up and go after that thing you want most. With that being said, I want to thank everybody that's listened to the Getting Back Up podcast since I launched back in September 2023. We're getting there, okay? We're getting there, and we're growing every single week. I've got more people following the podcast, more people subscribing to the podcast, listening to the podcast. So if you haven't done already, go to Instagram, Get Back Up Pod, and press that follow button. Go to YouTube and press that subscribe button. Please join the army, join the ever-growing army of Getting Back Up, and help us get really up there in the podcast ranks. It really does mean a lot. Your support means so much to me personally and everyone at Getting Back Up. 2024, we roll on. We've got the Paris Olympics coming up. We've got the Paralympics coming up. I'm going to have loads of Olympians and Paralympians on talking about their experiences, their dark lows, but their massive comebacks. So please tune in every single week and get your weekly dose of hope and inspiration right here at the Getting Back Up podcast. And listen, in life, we're all going to get knocked down over and over again. When you find yourself lying flat back on the canvas, looking up at the light with the referee counting 1, 2, 3, you have two choices. You can stay down and get counted out, or you can find that resolve and get back up. Always take the second option and get back up and fight for the thing you want most. Take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks in 2024.